Thanks everyone for coming. We're just going to kick off by introducing our panelists. I'm going to get them all to introduce themselves, their name, company, and position. And we're just going to start at the far end with Scott.
Thanks, Heather. My name is Scott Birdall. I'm CEO and co-founder of Snowline Gold.
Morning, everyone. My name is Jenna Mills. I'm from Kluwani First Nation, from Burwash, and I am the owner of Kagani Catering.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Nixon. I'm the Vice President of External Affairs with BMC Minerals.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cassia Jaquesta. I work with Denacho Environmental, and I'm the manager of operations. I've been with Denacho since 2021.
Good morning. I'm Jordan Clark with Vision Quest Drilling. I'm one of the partners and Kluwani First Nation citizen as well.
Hi, I'm Jim Coates, and I'm the Executive Vice President and Director of Yukon Metals Corporation.
Excellent, thank you. We're going to start with showcasing the partnership between Snowline Gold and Kagani Catering. So if you guys can talk about how the partnership began.
So the partnership began when Snowline announced that they were going to be contracting their kitchens out. So for their Forks, Valley, and Anthill projects for the 2025 season. This is kind of when Heather Burrell had the idea of forming a partnership with me. So then we put our bid in and we got the contract.
Yeah, and from our side, we are rapidly growing, and we had kind of seen a phase shift from 2024 into 2025, and as we normally do, as a company trying to be stewards of shareholder capital, put out a contract for bid to see what was out there. We had been the beneficiaries of good kitchen services prior to, but just seeing a local application come in and seeing what Jenna wanted to do and was aspiring to, we definitely wanted to be a part of that and be supportive of that. And so yeah, it was a shift of gears for us and a bit of a risk, but Jenna didn't disappoint. So yeah, really happy to have made that change and really happy to be building more support and a stronger ecosystem within the Yukon.
Excellent. And then Alan, why don't you start with the overview between BMC and Denacho Environmental?
Sure. We've had a long relationship with Denacho Environmental. Things really started when we purchased the project in 2015. And in meetings in the community and with Ross River Dena Council Chief and Council, at the time they were pretty clear that they wanted to have an independent assessment of our project in addition to what was going to go through YESA. And so we came to the agreement that, well, Denacho is the logical company to do that. And so that relationship started there, and through the assessment process, they've done a ton of work with us and worked very closely with us and actually made our project a lot better and helped initiate some significant improvements in the proposal. And then the relationship has just continued since then, and we're looking forward to doing even more work with them in the future. But that's where it all started.
Yeah, on a personal level, I worked for BMC before I worked for Denacho. I was a Casca Scholarship recipient, and I was a summer student for them. And then once I graduated from Kamloops from Thompson River University, they hired me full-time, and I was able to manage and help with executing their environmental programs on site. And yeah, I would say it was a really important part of my career because I was able to move into a position with Denacho and being more of a manager and working with more Casca citizens. And I had one other thing to say. Working with Denacho, we've helped BMC with independent review of their project, aerial surveys, and we've also helped with a greenhouse feasibility study, and we're planning to do more work with them in the new year.
Excellent, thanks. Jordan, you're
I
up.
think it's Jim's turn.
Okay.
You're up, Jim.
All right. So I guess this partnership started long before Yukon Metals was formed. Back in 2017, Jordan approached me about starting a First Nations exploration service company. And at the time, I owned a company that provided drilling and geophysics services in the Yukon. And I thought, this is a fantastic idea. So we started with learning about how to operate the equipment, training, and a bit of understanding of how the industry worked, and had some really interesting times out in the bush together, and did a lot of learning together. And when Yukon Metals was formed about a year and a half ago, one of the first things that I did was to call up Jordan and say, let's see if we can make all the things that we've learned over the years a reality in Yukon Metals and be able to build Vision Quest up as a multiple service provider within our company that can be, I guess, developed as Yukon Metals develops, and that's worked out quite well.
It has. Well, here we are 10 years later. But yeah, I think just from our original idea of starting an exploration company was stemmed out of looking at Colony First Nations category R1A lands. And that's something that really inspired me, is to get out of the office and get out to the mountaintops and to look at the land of what KFN owns. And it was phenomenal to be out there, to be on top of the mountains and to explore. And I loved it. I fell in love with it right away. It's like, if I can get away from the desk and the keyboard and be out in the land, it's just a totally different field. And it led to some friendships and some really good ideas that we put together. And I called Jim because he'd actually been out on this Fry Pan Creek and did drilling there. And then it led to another thing of doing some more training and talking to Yukon government, and then we ended up getting like $1 million in exploration right away from federal government and Yukon government, and that led to more exploration. And I think it's always been there. We haven't really touched it since, but that's really what started Vision Quest drilling, and being able to work with Jim and having a company like Yukon Metals to take us from like the journey of like grassroots prospecting to soil sampling, to line cutting, to building the drill pads, to actually drilling. And one of our guys was in the core shack, and he's like, I pulled that core, that's my handwriting. And it's like, so it's been awesome to go from the grassroots right to the end. But we need to have companies like Yukon Metals that can take the time to invest locally and see that, the true value of building a partnership locally. It just pays off in dividends year after year, and having that local workforce. And we want to expand. We want to try to connect with more communities, connect with Denicho, and we were actually cooking at one point, and now Kagani's doing the cooking, so it's great. I don't want to cook anymore. You got it. And it's a circular economy. Everyone knows each other in the First Nation businesses and dev corps, and there's a lot of work, and we need to grow that workforce.
Great, thanks, Jordan. I think the exact quote was, "You take them." Jenna, this question is for you. Thinking about capacity and shared benefits, what does the company do to ensure that the benefits of the training and employment are shared locally?
So we try to just hire as locally as we possibly could. And that commitment is only growing. In the new year, we plan to travel into Yukon communities to host presentations about Kagani and the work that we do. And also, we want to start doing like some hands-on cooking workshops within those two, and like handing out the meals that we make to community members. So just like finding fun ways to get people interested.
And Scott, from your perspective, is there something that Snowline does to, I mean, obviously taking the swing, as you put it, on Kagani leading into the season, like Snowline's a very large company with a lot of mouths to feed, and you took a swing on a company that was about 6 seconds old. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was one of the, honestly, one of the more difficult decisions I made for a number of reasons, like since launching the company, and there have been more than a few. But it really came down to early conversations around the kind of company that we wanted to build, and you know, a lot of credit to Craig Hart in weathering a few beers with me, and you know, really just coming to terms with some big ideas and trying to distill them down into principles. And one of those principles is just, you know, we want to build a company that's good for the Yukon, that is good for, you know, if we ever expand to wherever we are, not to just go into a place and, you know, do the sort of stereotypical impression of the mining industry. And so, you know, this was a moment when the rubber hit the road and we had this decision. Okay, do we go with this, you know, known entity who we respect and trust, or do we go with this unknown and kind of build by these values? And here's an opportunity to up our game when it comes to benefiting the place where we are. So, so that's why we took that swing.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thanks, Scott. For Kasha and Alan there, thinking about the company and what it does in the community, and for Denicho Environmental, maybe with this one, if you just want to speak to sort of the size of your workforce and what it started out at and what it is now.
Yeah, so I would say that Denicho started off very small. I don't want, yeah, I'll just kind of keep it short, but right now, like this year, we hired 71 people for the season. So that's local Ross River Dena, community-based projects, and it's been really successful having everyone a part of the different programs and then working with the different clients. We've been able to train for different different program or different types of training, like cabin and environmental monitoring. Environmental monitoring. Oh my gosh, monitoring, and yeah. And we post our positions that we have with preferential hire for Ross River, but we're hiring local for the different projects that we have.
Okay, excellent. And Jordan, how about you? How does your how do the benefits of training and employment get felt locally for Vision Quest?
Say again? No.
Where do
Well-
your crews come from, and what does that mean?
Like the benefits locally, it's, I think it's the story we tell at the end of the season or during the season. That's one thing that's, you know, you can't put a dollar value on. It's the local, like the youth that we're working with. There's a couple of guys that, my nephew is one of them, and he's living with my sister, and she's like, you need to, you know, you're done high school and you need to figure things out. And he's like, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna work for my uncle. And I was like, okay, well, do you know what you're actually going to do? Is like, we have to train him, and he spent the whole summer out at these camps, and he was like an all-star right away. Like he's young, and he's totally committed. But being able to take that home and then tell like my sister that, you know, it's healthy, it's out like good money, and he was able to go to Alaska and get on with our other partners with Min Consult, and he actually was at the end of the year doing drilling, helping with New Age drilling. And so he got to see the beginning to end of the whole exploration cycle of one season. And for him to be able to tell that story, and then there's more people in the community, like other guys, like, hey, I want to work with you too. And so it just kind of leads to what are we going to do next year, and how do we integrate more training. But being able to take, that's just one community in Burwash and a couple of guys there that are available to work. But I'm just like trying to find ways to connect with maybe Ross River or other First Nations where Yukon Metals is working, where we have work, it just makes the most sense to have like local guys you can call up that want to work, that are ready to go, and it leads to building, that word of mouth in the community.
Yeah, certainly. And in lots of ways, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, hey? Because when people come out and they enjoy it, they go home and they talk about the amazing work that they did. And that sort of is a positive feedback loop. The next round of questions, we're going to start with the pubcos answering them, or privcos if you're BMC, and then the Yukon companies. So can you talk about how, this is for you, Scott, can you talk about how the company focuses on its long-term goals for the project and how they tie into the local economic participation?
Yeah, I mean, well, as a public company, I guess our long-term goal is survival, at least in the junior space. But that's evolved to, now that we've defined this incredible asset, and I say that totally objectively, we're really looking at, okay, well, how do we move this forward? And, we've seen it's been incredible to grow from where we started to where we are. And there's so much more to come in terms of where we are headed. So, I mean, it's a pretty, I don't want to say defined path, but like a pretty clear walk towards, where we need to go broadly, towards bringing an asset towards and into production, and at the end of the day, full reclamation. And so it's that. Keeping our eyes on that prize is pretty obvious, given the value of that to the company and to the territory. And so now it's just, okay, how do we get there, and how do we do good along the way? How can we make impacts that are meaningful for the territory, and how can we kind of reshape the way that this trajectory is done in a meaningful and replicable way.
Okay, now Alan for BMC.
Yeah, I think, it all starts with, and Scott mentioned this earlier, it starts with the values of the company. And BMC, right from the beginning, has made it their long-term goal to leave a positive legacy. We recognize that, especially in Casca traditional territory, there's not a lot of good examples of mining. And then, as I used to tell our CEO, Scott Donaldson at the time, and then we come along with an Australian accent and say, hey, everything's going to be fine, mate, don't worry. So you have to prove it, right? And so BMC has worked very hard over the last 10 years to prove that we're part of this community and we're going to be part of it for the long term, and we're going to do things right. And part of that means supporting the local businesses and supporting the local economy. We're fortunate when we purchased the property, we had an existing socioeconomic participation agreement in place that was signed with Casca. And we've made it our goal to not only meet our obligations under that agreement, but to exceed the obligations under that agreement. And we think we've done that. And also to report back to the community, here's what we've done in the last year under this agreement. And there's just more to come, right? We also, we recognize that for the next projects that go into production here in the Yukon, whether it's a gold mine or a base metals mine such as ours, the pressure's on to do it right. And we can't afford as an industry to have another failure. And so we welcome that pressure, and we're ready to step up and do it. But we can't do it without Casca being a full partner and a full participant in that.
Yeah, exactly. So this one will be for Jim, but I probably should say for people in the audience who don't know, Yukon Metals has a number of projects, and they're scattered across the Yukon, so they're in lots of First Nations traditional territories. So, they don't have one sort of cornerstone project that they're pushing ahead. They're still actively exploring a whole bunch of them.
So I grew up in a small Yukon community, and my parents were small business people there. And so from an early age, I became very aware of how important it is to have opportunities, not just to make money, but also to grow skills and to have the pride that comes from doing a good job in these small communities and how much that can build a community once you've got a few businesses or a few people in that place that are participating. And when Yukon Metals was formed, and I realized that we had 17 properties scattered across the territory, I realized this is a real opportunity for us to develop the skills and develop opportunities for businesses in multiple communities, and so that we're able to spread the wealth that mineral exploration brings into the territory at the grassroots level as much as we possibly can. And a big part of that is when there's a local contractor or somebody who's now pan-territorial, like Vision Quest, that it's not just hiring them for one job. It's the company is bringing them on as a long-term partner and helping develop the skills and the techniques and working with them and also learning from them about their knowledge of the area where we're exploring in order to build this partnership that just develops and develops and develops. And that, for the Vision Quest story over the last year and a half, working with them, they went from starting out staking our claims to soil sampling, to building pads, to running camps, to operating the catering, as we talked about before, right up to diamond drilling. It was just this amazing progression of going from the most basic service, the claim staking, to the most technical one, the diamond drilling. And we're just really happy to support them on that journey. And I feel like it's an example of what you can do when you're looking at a long-term partnership where this is something that we hope to continue nurturing for years in the future.
Great. Sorry, the next one will be for Jenna. If you could offer one piece of advice to someone in the audience thinking about pursuing a partnership, I guess either company could do it, but we'll start with Jenna, or starting a business, what would that piece of advice be?
I think just trust the relationships that you have built. And then when an opportunity shows up, even if it feels too big and you don't feel 100% ready, just say yes, believe in yourself. You know, you learn a lot along the way, and just have confidence in your skills.
I think, not to put words in Scott's mouth, but I think that trust and Snowline had the trust that it could be done. It was not just this smooth road. There were hiccups that go along with these things, but having a partner that trusts the process and that the outcome will be what we all want, I think is important in that. And so, Cassia, what would you say is sort of a piece of advice for someone looking to start a company or, you know, trying to find the right person, because it is all about the people on the other end. So.
Yeah, I really like this question. I would say that having a good, honest relationship would provide the best result for a partnership.
Yeah, that's great. How about you, Jordan?
The advice would be just to relax. Don't like just jumping into things and assuming that companies are gonna, you know, pay for your $1 million drill in one day. It's not gonna happen. So it's just that conversation of being honest of where you're at with as a company, what you can provide, what your capacity is, and your ability to pay debt. Like that debt is a huge. It can take you down. It can end a company. And I'm actually going to Burwash after this to do a small business community workshop where we're doing equity matching fund. We just released that. But that's the same message I'm going to repeat to people is like, you don't need to jump in the deep end. Just learn to swim and, you know, and learn to walk, and then you can run. But that's really it. It's just like, you know, be careful. And business is long term. It's not 1 year. It could be a lifetime. So.
Yeah, I think it's really great too. There are lots of examples in the industry of like a startup First Nation business is not necessarily going to be able to take on an entire contract of X size, but what can it do? And it's the local companies that are doing the right thing in saying, okay, you can provide X to us this year. Let's build on that. We'll offset it or augment it with other work from other contractors, but let's get that ball rolling, because Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't just get to 71 employees without having gone through sort of the growth of 1 employee, 2 employee, 5 employees, 10 employees, right? So all of these things take time and dedication, and that's definitely a theme up here. Scott, to your bench, what's a highlight of 2025 for you? In the partnership lens. We don't want to hear about the gold. Let's.
Fair enough. Well, it was enough of a highlight that I already mentioned it at the opening reception. But yeah, we had a fund manager out to site who's based in Paris, and we had snacks and laid out and coffee for everyone. And as we're walking over to the office tent for the safety briefing and the overview, he just said, "Those are the best croissants I've ever had," and he's like fresh off the plane from Paris. So that was pretty good.
Great, thanks. How about you, Jenna?
Definitely that comment. I think just how successful our first year was, and having Snowline back us up, being our first contract, and just the support from all the businesses that we worked with this year.
Alan, your highlight.
Well, from a BMC perspective, it's been another long year. But I think really the highlight is that we can see the growth in some of our local contractors and the growth in their businesses and their capacity. And, the work we're planning next year with Dena Cho is something we haven't done before, but we can now. And so seeing that progression and seeing that growth is a real highlight. And then, of course, the real highlight of 2025 is meeting little area.
Sweet, thanks. Yeah, so for Dena Cho, our tree planting program, that's always a program that I like to highlight because there's so much, community members that are involved, and that includes Casca youth and elders. We were able to plant 19,000 seedlings in 10 days at Faro Mine, and since 2021, we've planted 136,324 seedlings. So yeah, it's a lot. And then one other thing I would want to add is that our client list has, for Dena Cho has become way more diverse, and we've been able to work with a lot more different companies, and a lot of companies have been approaching us, and it's really a good feeling.
Great, thanks. Jordan?
I think, well, the highlight is just like reduce stress. Being able to shore up our balance sheet, pay some debts back. I know we have some other debts there to pay. Don't worry, Yanni's coming. Give us another year. But having that trust factor built is like, I think, at the end of the day, they need to see results. The company needs to see, the results to keep the business moving forward. And that's it to me. It's just like we were able to help them under their guidance to get that result, and the future looks pretty good. So that's a highlight for me.
What about the young guys?
Oh, and then my nephew, my cousin, my brother. It's just like a Vision Quest is like the bro code. Is like, cousin, come out to work, brother. So that's kind of like our main objective is to do less rapping at night, less hip hop performances, and more drilling. Right, Nick?
Okay, last but not least.
For me personally, it was getting the phone call saying that Vision Quest's drill at our Birch property was pulling out perfect mineralized core on its very first hole and having a rate of production that I really didn't expect. And it was just all of this building up on an exploration project it really culminates in that first drill hole to see what comes out. And so for me, I was so happy to see that they'd done so well and that we were getting exactly what we needed at the end of the program.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thanks to all our panelists. We've got 24 seconds, and we run things like a Swiss watch. So no questions. You can find all of them after. And let's give them a round of applause for being on the panel.